Welcome to The Dying Breed. I'm Caleb, and today we're going to be trimming Lakota. In our last video, we did the front feet, and in this video, we're going to be doing her hinds. So first off, y'all are going to notice that she's way overdue. She got off cycle. Not ideal, not what I recommend, but we're going to try to get her fixed up today. So starting out, we're just going to look at the foot. That's what I do. Usually I pick up the foot, I kind of look at it, and I decide where I'm going to go with it. So there's not a ton of depth to take out of this foot. The reason for that is this is a really heavy horse, and she doesn't grow down as much as she does out. And you can see that. You can see how wide the hoof wall is and how it's flared out and chipped up and broken off. So we're going to try to gather that foot up and get it back to its natural shape without the flare. A lot of guys, and I'm one of them, we've made the mistake of looking at a foot and thinking we could take more than we should. So old guy told me that 1/8 of an inch of sole is like money in the bank. An extra 1/8 of an inch of sole isn't going to harm that horse, but 1/8 of an inch too short, you take 1/8 of an inch too much, and that horse will for sure be lame. So sometimes it's better to leave a little foot than it is to take too much off and have the horse sore. So right there, that's the commissures I'm opening up. You can see the dirt that's trapped underneath them. That's why we do that. That's why we open the commissure up with our knife, is to allow that trapped dirt to clean out on its own. Now that is called the seat of the corn, and we're just going to clean that out, get rid of any sole pressure that we have. Again, I'm being super gentle with the sole. I'm not taking a ton of sole out. Lakota is in her mid to late teens, and she definitely has some arthritis and maybe a little hock problem, maybe a little stifle issue. Whatever the problem is, she definitely struggles holding her foot in this position for a long period of time. So we give her breaks in between. I edit those out so that there's not just a lot of dead space. Like right there, I gave her a break. I let her stand for a minute or two with the foot on the ground and just let her take a break. Now, normally I would use my rasp on a regular size foot, but on these draft horses, I'm trying to do this as efficiently as possible so she doesn't have to stand in this position longer than is necessary. Now we'll just flatten that foot up, get rid of any little indiscrepancies that we did with our nippers. Okay, now we're going to put a shape in the foot. We're trying to get the hoof wall to be the same thickness from the white line all the way around and have a nice flow with no sharp edges. Now you can see the mark that we made on the bottom, and we're going to rasp to that from the top, getting rid of any flare or distortion that this hoof wall has developed over the trimming cycle. So in this case, the trimming cycle was not ideal. We weren't on a schedule. This horse wasn't done on time, so it's way worse than it would normally be. On a horse that's done regularly, we don't do a ton of top work. We just hit any little bit of distortion that is developed, and then we move on. In this horse's case, there's a ton of distortion and we need to address it. The biggest distortion you can see is that lateral heel quarter right there. Again, for anyone out there, lateral is outside, medial is inside. Rasping is for sure the hardest part of my job. It's all cardio. It was a hot day. I mean, I think it was 90 something degrees this particular day, right when we were doing this. I mean, it was miserable. apologize. I sound like I'm either dying or I sound like a freight train. I'm not sure which it is, but I breathe very loudly. Again, we're just addressing all that distortion all the way around the foot. That little chip right there, right where I'm rasping, it's not a big deal. That'll grow out. That's natural. It happens, especially with a horse that was this long. Now I put a little bit of a bevel all the way around the foot, and this is so that when she goes out and steps on a rock or whatever, it's not a sharp edge that can chip and break. This foot was way worse than the other foot, for sure. I mean, you can see that lateral heel quarter. Like, look how far that is forward. Look at those heels. Those heels have grown almost to, especially on the lateral side, that heel is so far forward. So we're going to bring that heel back, straighten up the bars, clean up the toe, get rid of all that flare, and this foot's going to look a lot better. Again, you can see that this horse grows out, not so much down, but out. Look at all that dirt and mud and nastiness caught underneath those frogs. I know some people that don't believe in trimming the frog, and I don't understand why, because that is the #1 place these horses get thrush. Like, we see a lot of thrush in the especially in those commissures. Those feet are awful hard. That's a sharp knife too, and it's not wanting to cut through them at all. So first off, we're just going to trim a little bit. Again, we're not trimming a lot off depth-wise. We're not trimming like inches off. We're trimming a ½ inch there, maybe less, maybe a quarter. Now we're going to get rid of that flare. I've kind of got my nippers angled kind of at a 45 because that's all bad hoof there that needs to come out and needs to be gone. You can hear the snap of those nippers. These feet are definitely dry. I've had a couple of comments about hoof oils and different kind of hoof conditioners. Some people swear by them. I'm not a big fan on them. I don't use them very much. I don't like the idea of putting an oil-based substance on the hoof. It kind of inhibits moisture absorption. And so I'd just rather not use them. That's just my opinion. But there are some people out there that swear by them. There we go. Again, we're gonna make another nipper run because there was so much flare there. Again, I edited it out, but we gave her another break. Like, this is hard for her. She's a little stiff and sore, and I do my best to keep the horse comfortable. It's not about where I'm comfortable. Like, a lot of times guys will make the mistake when they start shoeing horses. They'll put the foot where they're comfortable and where they can do it. And that's just not what you need to do. You need to put that foot where the horse is comfortable, where they're happy. And believe it or not, that'll make your life easier. Yes, it's harder on you because it puts your body in a harder position. But if the horse is more comfortable, he's not going to fight you, and he's going to let you do your job with less stress and less hassle. That foot is looking a little better, isn't it?
Almost done.
You can start to see the foot take shape. You can start to see the white line developing. The hoof wall is kind of starting to have the same shape as the white line. And then we're going to do a little bit of rasping to put an even better shape into that. I'm just getting rid of that little hook right there. Rasping the quarters around the toe, around the quarter, and all the way to the heel. But that's starting to look like a hoof. So I get questioned why we don't shoe this particular horse. in most working situations where a draft horse is working, pulling a wagon or a plow or whatever, they get shod. In this case, she lives in a pasture 24/7. She's not rode. She's not used. So there's really no reason to shoe her. If you can keep a horse barefoot, keep him barefoot. I think barefoot is healthier when possible. There are horses that can't go barefoot. I have a couple on my books that literally we've pulled the shoes a couple of times and I'm back out there 3 days later because they are completely crippled without shoes. I have a couple of horses that have pathologies that make it so they can't be barefoot, and some other ones that just have such bad hooves, like they just fall apart the minute you take their shoes off. They chip up and they're sore, they're thin-soled, and it's just not possible to be barefoot. I think the big thing with shoeing is that you have to approach each horse as an individual. It's not a one-size-fits-all type thing. Sometimes we'll do something on a horse and we'll come along and there'll be another horse and you're like, oh, that would work on him too. But as a whole, each horse is an individual. And you have to bear that in mind when you're working on these animals. There is a little crack right there. We've gotten rid of what's causing that crack. So we've gotten rid of that big old wonky flare. So I'm not too concerned about it. That crack should go away between now and the next appointment. So I'm just going to get a little bit more distortion taken care of here. Get that foot cleaned up. I'll bring my rasp around the outside, put a little bevel on it. I mentioned earlier in the video, that's to keep it from chipping. Sharp, straight edges break. Rounded corners are stronger. These hoof jacks are just amazing. I don't know how anyone could do a draft horse without one of these hoof stands. I've been using these hoof stands for, I don't know, several years now, and they're amazing. The company's amazing. Any farriers out there that wonder if they're worth getting, I think they're definitely worth getting. If you've got a bad back and it's hard for you to clean your horse's feet, I'd get one. This will make your life so much easier. And they're $180 for the base model. I mean, that's nothing. You can go out and get one and your back will be so much happier. So that should about do it. I've been trying to get better about videoing the after product so everybody can kind of see what they look like after. So here you go. Had a couple of comments in the last video about cutting the feathers. That's not an option with draft horses or any of these long feathered horses. They're sacred and you will make some people very angry if you cut off the feathers. The other comment that we received that I wanted to address was these front feet, the splits right there in the fronts. I'm not too worried about them because we've gotten rid of what was causing the splits, the big wonky toe. So there's not that pressure pulling the foot apart. So now it won't be a problem. And it should resolve itself pretty quickly. So here's Lakota. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll catch you next time.